Namaskar and good evening to one and everyone. My name is Shishir and I am Senior Deputy Editor with the Hindu Business Line. Today we have lost one of the greatest singer of our time, Mr. S.P. Balasubramaniam. And as a matter of respect and as a token of appreciation, I dedicate this webinar to Mr. Balasubramaniam. Let us begin this webinar with the introduction of our three distinguished guests, Mr. Prakash Kumar, Chief Executive Officer with GSTN. We have with us Mr. Rajesh Shukla. He is Head Indirect Taxation with Tata Motors. And Mr. S. Jay Kumar, Advocate and Founder, and he is the Country Head of Swami Associates. As you have seen the title of this webinar, GST, Goods and Services Tax, how it is good, how it is simple. And if you can remember June 30th, 2017, when Mr. Prime Minister launched this indirect tax system, and he said that this is going to be good and simple. So after 3.5 years or say 4 years, we are going to discuss whether it has evolved as good and simple or not, or what kind of experience the assessees have. So we'll start our discussion with a poll, and can we have the poll, please? And the question is very simple, and of course it's a good one. Is GST a good and simple tax? As we all know that GST is subsuming 17 kinds of tax and 13 kind of cesses. Of course, there are some cess still under the regime of state government, and also there are some taxes like taxes on petrol and diesel, and of course on alcohol, they are still with the state government. So based on the simplifying the taxation system and bringing a good system, the government introduced GST. Now, can we have the response of the poll, please? So now we have a response. 58% says that it has become a good and simple tax, while 42% says not good and simple tax. Mr. Kumar, let me begin with you. Since you are providing a kind of infrastructure, or as I say, I can say the backbone to this indirect tax system. So during this period from 2017 to 2020, how this system has evolved, how GSTN has evolved as a good and a simple. Good from the point of view of experience and simple from the point of view of compliance.
Thank you, Hindu Business Line, for giving us this opportunity. Sisirji, the transition has to be seen from multiple perspectives. One, you have already talked about the number of taxes and cesses which were. The other was, if a company was registered in multiple states and UTs, the number of different kinds of returns, forms, annexures, declarations which they had to fill, and to be precise, it was 495. In fact, the large companies had to maintain separate teams to look after this, and so was the case with the accounting software company. From there, we have come to one process, one law for entire country, and the number of forms have also reduced drastically. Now, this thing has to be seen from the user perspective. When we started, many state VATs were not online. From there, we made everything online. Number one. Number two, we came up with business to business invoice reporting, which was not there in during VAT or even service tax or central excise, except 2-3 states, and that also it was just merely reporting. And third and very important one was that they had to, we were validating every invoice which was getting into. For both buyer and seller has to be in the system and invoice number. Now, just to tell you that this particular thing was found to be onerous in the beginning, but my colleague Mr. Rajesh Shukla will agree the kind of reconciliation they get done in 1 month after completion of the month than it used to take after completion of the whole year when the accounts were closed. So that's the change which has happened. Of course, there are many, there were some other challenges, like we were not fully ready with all the functionalities because of the time we got, but we slowly, we one after another, we brought laws and rules kept on changing because those have to be changed to resolve the difficulty which people were facing, and then we had to do that part. But overall, where we are today is a much better system which people have got used to. We have also evolved, and there is a system which large number of people are able to use, uh, including the tax consultant who are basically the backbone. Through them, the entire compliance happens.
Okay. Mr. Shukla, I will come to you since you are one of the user of GSTN. So what is your experience? What kind of issues which you are facing, or what kind of simplification, what kind of good thing you can talk about GSTN, or what kind of things which need to be improved you can talk about?
So again, thank you, Madhavan and Shishir, for inviting me on the webinar. And I know we have very eminent co-panelists with me. I am looking forward constructive discussion with them. And now IPL has started, so I think you have given one tough ball to Mr. Kumar, and he has, as opening batsman, made a good score on that. So I congratulate him. I think the question you have asked, how I am facing and compliance with tax, payment of tax in ease. So I think your statement itself is a paradox because you are using compliance with ease. Now, if you have to check this, I think your title of the seminar itself says multiple things, and it is magnifying the question or the issue here. So after 3 years, we are discussing whether GST is good and simple. That answers probably one point of it. But as you have asked me the question, let me give my views on this. So when we talk about compliance and ease of tax payment, generally we get confused. Uh, what are the issues on GSTN? What are the issue on GST law per se? So I will answer my question in two buckets because both the issues are totally different. So if you ask me on GSTN front, what is our experience and whether we are able to do ease of compliance, I will comment on that. But before doing that, let me first compliment Mr. Rao and Prakash Kumar and his entire team. Last 3 years, they are relentlessly working and supporting the business, and they have managed huge transition from previous regime, and he has explained how number of assessees got migrated. They have set up an infrastructure transaction level reconciliation, which is never seen before in the countries large like Tata, all like India, and many other aspects he has explained. So I give compliments to him. But at the same time, have we overcome all the problems? So my answer is no. Yes, there has been improvement last 3 years, and we are getting some comfort, but the issues are not over, and these difficulties and the degree of difficulties are different from assessee to assessee. Large taxpayers like us will have different issues than the taxpayers which are small and medium scale. And when we are interacting with our vendor base, we realize that they are not intentionally doing any non-compliance or delaying compliance, but merely because they are not able to catch up with the speed in which the changes are coming. One more fact which I want to put here is that earlier the compliance was completely in our control. It was independent of our supply chain partner, whether it is dealer or vendor. But now we are interdependent. So if there is a small change in entire compliance system, including GSTN changes or law changes, it impacts entire supply chain, and we get into spin, and which is resulting into like example like ITC benefit loss on my side, and then we fight with each other. So I think my view is that there are many things which we can jointly do with GSTN and improve upon the compliance and user experience, for which we have given number of suggestions at the time of rolling out of GST, and still we have lot many suggestions to offer. So if time permits, I will dwell upon that during the session.
Okay. Mr. Jayakumar, since you deal with the legal aspect, you advise your clients on how to go for compliance. So what kind of feedback you get that whether this system has really evolved as a good and simple, and this is giving a kind of good experience to the assessees in comparison to its trial system of indirect taxation?
A very warm good evening to one and all. And thank you, Shishir, for calling me as a panelist today. And with all your permission, the distinguished panelists, the moderator, and the distinguished audience,
Please.
Let me take 1 minute to pay my eulogy to one of the greatest legends, S.P. Balasubramanian, who expired today, with whom we have grown. Millions and millions have grown. I just want to pay in one line. I just wanted to thank Almighty for blessing me to be born and to live in an era or a period where that legend also lived. Thank you, God. And RIP, my greatest singer of the century.
Me too.
Okay. Now, let me move on to this session. I'm afraid I belong to that 48% who said no. Okay. And let me try to justify why it is. See, as rightly pointed out by Rajesh, there are two different buckets. One is on a conceptual level, or the law, and on the implementation, which is my learned panelist is heading, that is the GSTN. First, on the law bucket, I would say this, there are two parts to the question. The question is good and simple. On the first part, if it is good, yes, I do admit, and there are no two doubts about it, that it is a very good tax. The intention is honest, the intention is progressive, and it is a need of the hour. That too, for a developing economy like India to march ahead, getting into a GST is very, very important. It is an indispensable transformation. And so on the first part of it, whether it is good or bad, I would always vote, even in my wildest dreams, it is good. Now, there are, as a satellite to it, I would address, yes, it is good. But the question was, were we ready for that change? Whether the soil was made ready to sow the seed to grow into a sapling, into a tree, and whatsoever. As Mr. Prakash Kumar said, time was short and we have to jump into the well. And there is also another school of thought that if we allow everything to settle, a conducive environment to settle, and then only to mushroom, then it will never happen in India.
Yes.
So there is a very sensible school of thought which said that you have to always jump and then learn swimming. But my question is, yes, fine. But the basic breathing exercises we should have done. And whether there was enough support by the opposer. On the law front, my first apprehension, in fact, tax icon, senior advocate Arvind Datta, in 2017, just before the launch of GST, gave a wonderful seminar where he said that GST is the most terrible thing that can happen to India. I rate him as Bhishma Pitamaha of our indirect taxation, but I was a bit apprehensive. I was not with him. I was not on board with him. I was thinking that he is going a bit overboard while saying that. But after 38 months, as you rightly said, 3.5 years or so, I'm just slowly inclining that whether he is right, he could have been right. I will only point out only two things.
Yeah.
One on the implementation and one on the law point, because time is the essence. First, on the law front, we made a lot of compromises. From day one, there were compromises. The greatest compromise is getting GSTR 3 into a 3B.
Yes.
By making a mandatory automated, which is the anthem of this GST is all about, having it automated. And you gave it as a wishful payment. It was a wishful return today. And that started, and till date it is continuing, which is the sole reason for all the cup of force. That is what I feel. Every other problem which is cropping up today is only because of that GSTR 3B is not yet made into an automated, seamlessly automated return. And when you had GSTR 1 and 2, which are other procedural returns, and the soul of the entire GST, the sole return of the entire GST 3B into a compromised manual wishful return, then I think your fundamentals are gone. So that is one prime concern of me, which is still yet to be addressed, which has not been addressed. In fact, Dattar said, very nicely he put it. He said, we are too early to jump onto it. We are not ready, both in infrastructure as well as, other legal aspects, we are not ready. We could have test driven. Like service tax came only in initially when it was launched in 1994. It is not new to us. It was launched only on 4 services. Then it slowly went on, and we went into a negative list where entire thing under sun were sought to be taxed.
Yes.
Like this, we could have thought that. Mr. Jaitley said 95%, that is a Pareto principle. 95% of the SSEs contribute only 5%, and 5% of the SSEs contribute 90% of the revenue.
Yeah.
So this 95% of the revenue is coming only from the 5%. We could have concentrated on that, made this seamless. What is the urgency? We could have done that. We could have made seamless infrastructure, the portals, everything, and then we could have gone like service tax, what we did. But now it is too late to think of it because we have already jumped into the well. We have, half feet water is flowing above us.
Yeah.
Now, the possible things what we can do is, first and foremost, we should first understand, yes, we have done a mistake. Admittance is the first, I would say, that is the first point we have to understand that, yes, there is a mistake. The foot was not put in the right direction. So what is the essentials to recalibrate? What is the need or what is the necessity to navigate it proper to the direction is the first thing I wanted the government to do.
Okay.
Yeah. And the last one point on ITC, I'll come to that in the second. On ITC, I also want to make a point.
Okay.
But as Rajesh said, under Prakash astute leadership, GSTN has been extraordinarily wonderful. This is not for the, I'm not flowering in any flattery. It is a true fact for this massive scale. What GSTN has done, responded proactively and reactively, has been phenomenal, and hats off to Mr. Prakash and his team. I go with Rajesh on that. Over to you, Sashi.
So Jaykumar just wanted to add that when initial discussion were happening and when we understood that it will be transaction level reporting and reconciliation, and we discussed with our commissioner, he was surprised. Is it going to happen really? Is it that the government intended to do it? But I think with whatever effort GSTN has done, and still we are in problem, but still we are able to do now most of the transaction level compliance through GSTN. So that's why I said I compliment Mr. Prakash Kumar and his team.
Oh, I'm with you on the same page.
Okay.
Yes. Over to you, Sashi.
Yeah, Mr. Kumar, since Mr. Jay Kumar has raised one particular point, this is GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. We all know that GSTR 1 is basically what about the liability, and GSTR 3B is all about what kind of actual payment you are going to do it. And there's always been an issue that the input tax credit is somehow, it has been taken, not which was eligible kind of thing. If I can remember, Mr. Kumar, you have recently introduced GSTR 2B functionality into the system. How this is going to help this kind of problem? I mean, automated or the auto-populated kind of input tax credit into the system, and taxpayer will be in a better position to know that what actually he has to pay.
So, Shashi, I just wanted to tell two things which I missed in the first question.
Okay.
One is the ITC movement, which has become much seamless compared to the previous regimes, either VAT or central excise. People who have handled, they know how difficult that was and how easier it has become today. And the second one is refund. Those who are exporting after payment of taxes, they don't even need to file a return. In fact, their GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B are treated, and within 5 to 7 days, they get the money. And for remaining, it has been made fully online with complete status being shown. So I thought I will just put these two also, which was not there earlier. I have worked in sales tax days. earlier as well. Mr. Jayakumar has touched a very, very important point. That initially it was a flow, liability, input tax credit, and then the system mix. Now, what we have now worked that, okay, now since that 3B has continued, can we link 1 and 3B? So what we started doing immediately, in fact, first quarter itself, we started seeing that whatever liability people were putting in GSTR1, many of them were not showing that liability. They were showing less than that in the 3B. And similarly, we had 2A from beginning. Whatever was coming in 2A, many of them were overstating. So it was both under-reporting liability, over-reporting your ITC. So the first step was to generate red flag, give them notices. Then we came up with this data on the dashboard of both tax officer as well as taxpayer. The next one, which we have just started, is the 3B part, the liability we are generating based on GSTR1. In fact, this we have done for last month. And for 2 months, we are going to give as a PDF document, which is downloadable so that people can check and tell us if there is any error in that. It's table to table concordance is there. Similarly, 2B has been generated, which is a snapshot of 2A between 12th and 11th of 2 months, adjacent months, during which all the supplies given by their respective suppliers in GSTR1 file appears, so that you get that. And the aim is from November month return filed in December, 3B will be auto-populated. So that is what we are going to do. And this first we are doing for monthly tax filer. And Mr. Jayakumar, as he said, all our tax paying community will be covered in that. Baki, we'll see them. That's also we are working on them. But this is the first one which will be covered. So this is the plan. In fact, we have already done liability from GSTR1 and ITC from 2A to 2B and giving it as a downloadable function. In fact, you can get a download as your an Excel sheet as well. And we have also revamped the comparative chart which we used to give of ITC and your liability. What you have claimed in 1 and 3B and 3B and 2A/2B, because many people said, "Mujhe pata nahi tha, I didn't know." Said, okay, we'll show it to you. In fact, first we started showing to the taxpayer and then we started showing to the tax officer. And this can also now be downloaded as an Excel file. And that gives an opportunity to you to make amends in the subsequent cases. And then also we have started flowing in the IGST paid on import, so that all ITC is now available at one place. So Mr. Jayakumar, yes, we are on that path, but since we are trying to retrofit, it takes some time to bring them together on something which was not thought permanent at that time, but now has become permanent. So trying to bring the same thing, what was envisaged in 1, 2, 3 in GSTR1 and 3B.
Okay.
So, Mr. Prakash Kumar, Shishir, let me add this. When Mr. Prakash Kumar says that these facilities are available, so we welcome those facilities, but still we experience that the system is not able to handle the large volume for corporates like us, because there is some restriction, it seems, on the download size. So whenever we download our 2A, there is a lot of efforts and multiple times we have to do something has to be done on that, sir.
So what we have done, you download 2B, which is prepared and kept there. You don't even have to go and request for it. So that's the change we have made. So if you go and
one solution is there, Mr. Shukla. Now there is one issue from October 1, we are going to have invoicing for companies, for businesses having rupees 500 crore or more turnover. So what kind of preparation you have, or what kind of things which you think that this will be a kind of issue when we are going to have this kind of system?
Yeah, I think I was expecting this question, because this is the hot topic today in industry, and many of them are still hoping against hope that it will be extended. So only Mr. Prakash Kumar can only comment on that, but we as a Tata Motor or our group, we are ready for facing this new change or challenge, whatever you call it. But many of them are not ready Let me say this very clearly. And even if we are ready, we are testing. There is a already voluntary compliance facilities made available to us. We see many issues as simple as the PIN codes are not updated, the HSN codes are not updated. There are so many FAQs are getting released, and one example I can give you that notification says that the turnover of financial year 1920 will be considered for mandatory compliance of e-invoice above 500 crore, but the system has enabled for based on last 3 year data. So
I
people
think
have
Mr. Kumar,
got
just I will stop you here. Mr. Kumar is going to give you some clarification
Yeah,
on
so
that.
the
Before you-
clarification, if you read the notification, it says in any financial year. And the government has clarified to us. In fact, we first generally in GST, it is a previous financial year. So we had generated based on that. And that's also a taxpayer facilitation. You know better what is your turnover. We have generated based on the 3Bs which have been filed and kept there. And any 3 years is based on notification. It says, the word says in any financial year. And I just wanted to add, Shishirji, that this facility was started on 6th of January. From then it's available. Large number of people have integrated, they have tested. There was some changes were made in March. That was the major change. Thereafter people have continued, and in fact in August 2 new items were added based on industry feedback. And that also people have July 30th July, and people have integrated. A large number of people have integrated, but as Mr. Jay Kumar was saying, we all have this habit of doing at the last moment. That's the problem.
Sir,
Mr.
this
Jack,
is adding a lot of problems to companies, not only Tata Motor, but all because it is system change. And you can understand, and you are a system person, how difficult it is to get last minute changes incorporated. So I I still feel that
Okay, so again,
we are very
let me through this because there will be a large number of people who are attending this. The changes were required mainly by the ERPs because so that the invoice comes out in a standard format for reporting to us, as well as see the whole idea is not compliance, but also how invoice moves from seller to buyer, and so that it gets incorporated into the buyer's accounting system or ERP system without any hassle. Today, many of your buyers have to make entries because they are not using the same standard schema of invoice. So there enough time was given. The problem is everyone hopes ke cha extend ho jayega, but that's the problem.
okay.
so that is
Mr.
so
Jayakumar, yeah.
you are confirming, sir, that is not getting extended this time.
No, not at all.
Okay. So anyway, Mr. Jayakumar, let me bring you in this picture. Then there's one particular issue which is disturbing every SSA. That's a legal matter. I mean, there are various rulings by on one particular thing by AAR and also by High Court. I can give you two examples. Recently, Madras High Court has given ruling on input services in case of inverted duty structure, whether they will be eligible for a refund or not. So Madras High Court goes with the legislation. And in the month of July, Gujarat High Court said, no, the legislation is not correct. Then similarly, we have a different ruling by AAR, especially when I'm talking about the intermediary services. On one AAR said, no, it can be done. Another AAR said it can be done. So what do you think that different rulings by, or rather I use the word contrary rulings on one particular subject by AARs and High Court creating more and more problem for assessors?
Yes, very, very valid point. In fact, AAR is getting a reputation, if I may say so, as adverse ruling authorities. In fact, in the past 38 months, I have been following this for the first 200 AAR and trying to find out how many was in favor of the department, I mean, favor for the revenue and how many for the trade. And thereafter, I lost, numbers because it was always 90% favor of the revenue. Now we are 100,000 plus. And slowly, I have to say, this is a ground reality. We accept, you don't accept it, it's different, but this is a ground reality. That people are losing, trust or losing confidence on the advanced ruling authority, mainly because, see, let it be an advanced ruling, let it be a settlement commission, let it be a tribunal, or these forums should have a judicial participation in it. There should be a judicial stamp for credibility, for accountability, and even for a pragmatic view on the subject. Now, this advanced ruling authority is manned by only a state officer and a central officer. And so it is, going with the flow, it is expected that it is always in favor of the revenue. That is what the field is feeling about. This is honest, I'm telling you, this is a honest footprint. Now, unless there is going to be a judicial interference or a participation in advanced rulings are going to, I would say this will definitely fade out.
Okay.
Coming to the courts, you have a very valid point. You are very right. Now, in GST regime, which we never saw in earlier regimes, even in service tax, even in excise, we never had these sort of so many writs being, filed in various courts. Every provision of the GST Act is being now, contested, litigated by way of writ, and every high court is dealing with it. As you rightly said, not only in the latest input services, even in the TRAN 1 issue, Gujarat High Court said that they even instructed the government to open it and give it because that is a vested right, earned right. Madras High Court, on the other hand, has given went with the revenue.
And even the Rajasthan High Court and Punjab and Haryana High Court,
true,
they asked to go to GST Council and
yes,
then take the issue forward. So
very
that's another step into this matter.
Now, what happens? A person in Gujarat can, by virtue of that Gujarat High Court decision, he is entitled for a unutilized input tax refund on the input services. For Madrasis or not. So this is creating this is only a start. Every other provision has been contested in every court. So when I was talking to my senior partner, Natarajan, he was giving a very sensible idea. He was saying that because of what is happening, that we should, all the high courts should not interfere with the tax or anything on GST should be transferred to a special bench only in Supreme Court.
Yeah, that's true.
So the GST Council should also recommend that, and the government should also take it forward in the best interest of, otherwise it will be a chaos, it will be a havoc. So in order to put a house in order, in order to see to it that, sanity prevails across 29 states, we have to have a Supreme Court special bench, especially for GST, something like that. These are really ballpark ideas. I'm just saying that. Then you will have a uniformity. Because every other provision is going to be very, very important. Say, if it is anti-profiteering, it is being contested. ITC, every provision is contested. So it would be beneficial for the revenue also, and even for the trade, because what we need is consistency.
And hopefully the commercial court, the concept of commercial court, where we are talking about more and more benches under the commercial court dealing with the economic issues. So we can have a separate court, especially or separate bench, especially for GST related matter, so that there will be a uniform, and then you can have a regional benches of that particular, and then go about that rather than.
Unfortunately, even the GST tribunal, the provisions have been set aside by Madras High Court. As I said, our iconic senior advocate Arvind Dattar argued that matter, and the GST provisions relating to the tribunal was passed. And still the legislature has not taken cognizance of it and come out with a GST tribunal, which is another reason for us to go to the courts, because there is no alternate remedy beyond a commissioner appeals today.
Okay.
Because the statutory GST tribunal is not available, everyone is approaching a writ remedy.
Okay.
And that is the reason. So we need to have, as you rightly said, a common special body or a special bench in the Supreme Court. Otherwise, days are going to be very tough, really tough.
So we have a lot of questions from audience also. We will take it up further. But let me go to Mr. Shukla. Mr. Shukla, you are dealing with one particular sector which is always complaining about higher tax, because automobile, we all know that 28%, then there is a cess between 1% to 22%. And there has been demand that at least there should be given some temporary relief. Now your competitors are saying that this is going to impact the further investment in automobile sector. So do you agree with that, sir?
So actually, this was the one of the biggest expectation from auto sector when we migrated to GST, that whatever earlier rate regime, and you know, in earlier in excise regime there were around 15 excise duty rate coupled with equal amount of state rates, with entry tax, with LBT, and all not all whatever taxes were becoming complex business in system configuration, pricing, and compliance. So our simple expectation was when we migrate into GST, it will be rationalized and we'll have at least or maximum three rates. But unfortunately, that dream has not come true. And today, with basic 28 plus cesses, we are still having the similar complexity. And if you see, the auto sector is the only sector which has got highest number of slabs, highest tax rate. It is ranging from 5% to 50%. If you take electrical vehicle, it is 5%. To high-end SUV, it is 50%. So such a wide gap. So our expectation is still that government will consider, when they will consider rationalization, to bring this rate. And of course, our demand is that at least for temporary period to boost the economy and our demand, the government should consider, like in 2008, we got some package for particular period. Coming back to your question of investment, as you know, these tax rates are varying. They are linked to various parameters like fuel use, like length, like engine capacity. Even ground clearance is one of the parameter. So India is only country where all these things are there, including technology use, hybrid, fully electrical. All those complexities are there. So naturally, when the companies are designing their future product and investing, they have to keep it in mind that how the business case will work. So maybe that is the reason I think you must be reading in media that some of the companies are putting on hold their future expansion plan or investment. So I think that is the basic reason around it. And we still expect that government listens and hope to get some relief on that.
Okay, let me take two questions from the audience, and that is basically for Mr. Prakash Kumar. And that one question is about our person name is Mr. Saurabh Agrawal. I'm sorry, he's Mr. Sairam Balasubramaniam. He's asking that why is GSTN not considering clearinghouse for invoices in line with the stock exchanges or banks? The flow in the present GSTN architecture is the counterparties are allowed to reconcile the government account. They are bound to create chaos. This is one question. And then the second question is from Swaroop Kekhale. He's saying, what can be done to increase capabilities on GSTN? Mr. Kumar, your take, please.
So the second question first, we have already increased the capacity. In fact, we have made it twice. In June month, we did that. And now 3 lakh concurrent filings can be done, which used to be 1.5 lakh earlier. So that has already been done, and we have seen the impact of that. The first one was deliberated a lot by the council and the committee of officers. That was one way of doing it, but it was not agreed to. See, the ITC is not invoice to invoice.
Okay.
So that's one of the major reasons. They, in fact, and what you can claim and what automatically comes when you have the invoice, these are two different things.
Okay.
So these are the two, and then also your what business you are doing, what you are producing, how much of is exempted, how much is of non-exempted. All that also determines how much of input tax credit you can take. So it is not that straight simple. If it was straight invoice to invoice and everything was taxable, then we could have gone in that particular line.
Okay, there are many more questions for you, but let me go to Mr. Jaikumar. Mr. Jaikumar, since we were talking about the litigation and the kind of litigations we are seeing, and just we saw one particular scheme for the legacy dispute resolution scheme. That's Sabka Vishwas legacy dispute resolution scheme. The kind of the numbers which we are seeing in terms of litigation, do you expect that after say 5 years or 7 years, we will have another kind of a scheme to resolve GST kind of issues?
A very interesting thing, but I wish it should not happen, because The Sabka Vishwas took a lot of cases away from all of consultants, and I am also one of that. In fact, we filed more than 2,800 cases under the scheme because it is good for the trade. Okay, coming to your question, I don't expect because these sort of Samadhan schemes. Earlier, one came which was called as KVSS. These sort of schemes comes once in 15 years, 20 years, something like that. And GST is just launched 3 years. So I don't foresee a Samadhan scheme immediately. But you're very right, because the litigation level compared to the earlier legacy laws is a geometric progression. It is we can't even think of it. So many disputes are rising, and the current legislation is not doing any good to resolve it. In fact, originally, when we were thinking that there is going to be a transformation from the legacy laws into GST, we thought that things are going to be very easy and the litigation levels are going to come drastically down. But it was otherwise. For example, that's what I wanted to say about the ITC also. ITC is one of the very important ingredient of GST. But everything would have been made very simple if that one section 17.5, block the credits, it is taken out of the books. We don't need that. We are into a progressive legislation. When everything is purchased and a tax is being paid, that is given as a credit is my right, is my vested right.
Okay.
And it is, I would say that it is, the 17.5 is a very, very big blockade and it, to the progression. So, for example, I'll say in 17.5, the blocked credits, they are not allowing telecommunication towers to telecom providers as input credit. I can't understand this. Are we progressing? Is this a progressive levy? ITC, that blocked credit, once that section is taken out, because that is not a subsidy. It is a payment I have done, I have earned. So once that section is taken out, you don't need any Samadhan, you don't need consultants like me.
Okay. That's not something which we want you to be there.
But if the litigation levels going, maybe a settlement commission could be, may come, we don't know, because there was a provision initial in the draft, but subsequently the law didn't have a provision for the settlement commission. Maybe it may come with a waiver of interest and penalty. Okay, and but the Samadhan scheme could be a far cry. That's my take.
Dispute resolution system, that is a part of constitutional amendment. That's the 101st constitutional amendment, which we can expect that in future course of time we can have the kind of system. Now, Mr. Shukla, I have two questions for you. There's one question from Mr. Izali Saran. I mean, please forgive me. Please forget me. Pardon me for the pronunciation. The question is that after submission of GSTR 1, an error of EVC or EDSC is inevitable without logging out and logging in again. In fact, this question is also for Mr. Kumar, but I'm asking you just to have an idea from the user's perspective. Why these type of small hindrances is still continuing? What is your experience, Mr. Shukla?
No, I think let Mr. Kumar answer this, because it is very technical question and I think he is the right person to answer this.
Mr. Kumar, please.
Okay, so here, if I have understood correctly, let me try to answer.
If I read the question again, please.
What the person is saying, that after submission of GSTR1, an error at EVC or EDSC is inevitable without logging out
and logging in again. Why these types of small hindrances still continuing?
See, I'm just trying to understand what the person is trying to say here. EVC is a very simple one, and OTP goes and you just enter it. DSC people face challenges because it's a third-party solution, which and updates keep on coming. There are two fundamental requirements. You need to be registered as need to be logged in on the system as administrator, then only you can sign. And the second year it should be updated. So these two things, and we have put some videos and all for people to if they get stuck, how to handle that. But then if there's an error, you have to, I mean, I'm not able to understand fully at EVC or EDSC is inevitable without logging out or logging it again. Does it mean that you need to, if the person is meaning that you need to log out and log in again, For EVC, no. In fact, they would make a second trial. EDSC also basically what happens, either you have to go and log in again as an administrator. If you are not logged in on that laptop as administrator, it will not allow you.
Okay.
So there is no way out because the third party software, not ours. People
Okay.
buy from market and then use that.
Mr. Shukla, what is about the e-way bill? Because this is one thing which is considered as a high frequency indicator, and everyone keeps talking about e-way bill. The number of e-way bills are going up, and that is showing that how economic activities are picking up. What has been your experience, and what kind of changes you think that should be done in e-way bill mechanism?
Yeah, so on e-way bill, I think when it was introduced, we also had a lot of apprehension how it will work, whether the GSTN support system will work and we'll get it. But more or less on generation of e-way bill, I don't think there is an issue. We are getting very good support from portal. And of course, there are ASP, GSP providers who are working on this, so it is automated to get extended at least company like us. But the issue we are facing is on the implementation of the provisions and the compliance. And there are different state officers are taking different stand.
Mr. Shukla, I think we have some problem with your audio. I think there is some technical issues. There will be because in the virtual world there are always issues here and there. Mr. Jaykumar, there is one interesting question. The name of the person is Mr. Sunil Kulkarni, and he's talking about Sabka Vishwas. He is saying that many taxpayers have not received discharge certificate under this scheme for the simple technical fault that the payment was not made through the link under the scheme, but was made separately. When you can expect this can be sorted out, because both the schemes, whether in the direct taxes or in the indirect taxes, this is the system we are, this is the problem we are seeing, and we are seeing a lot of litigation on this issue in various high courts. How do you see this problem, and what kind of solution you can suggest?
The solution lies in the mindset. There should be a paradigm shift in the mindset. The enforcing officers should understand that this was a beneficial legislation which was given and enforced, which was given as in the plate, and the intention was to reduce the litigation. See, it's such a paradox that on the one hand, the scheme itself is to reduce the litigation, take away legacy cases, enter into GST afresh, and you are creating cases. Even we have a lot of cases, with some small defects, that full stop, comma, like of pronunciation mistakes, like that. The litigation is generated on very flimsy grounds. This is basically the mindset. The enforcing field should understand that the intention behind this legislation was to reduce the cases and not to create litigation, whereas we are creating litigations out of that scheme itself.
Okay.
This is completely condemnable. In fact, the ivory tower has to take a relook on this and come back and inform the field very strongly. In fact, of late we are seeing from CBIC, from every other, ivory tower, we are just seeing very good instructions flowing to the field. This should also be taken due cognizance. Media like Hindu should take it up and write so that the visibility is achieved, and they take cognizance and condemn that such frivolous litigations on a scheme intended for removing litigation should not be entertained at all.
Okay. Mr. Kumar, I have two questions for you. One is from Mr. G. Natarajan, and then another one is from Mr. V. Iyer. I'm taking the first question from Mr. Natarajan. He's asking that why there are three cash ledgers, one for IGST, one for CGST, and one for SGST. Why can't we have one GST cash ledger?
That's reply is very simple. We have a dual tax in our country, so that you naturally have to have a central GST and a state GST. And then for movement of tax from supply state to the consumption state, a new thing called integrated GST was made, and there is a rule for how you can utilize IGST to make payment of CGST and SGST, and that is why it has been done. This example is not found in any other country because no one has our kind of dual GST except Canada, and they also have quite a complicated system. You had asked Rajesh Shukla about the e-way bill part. In fact, I just wanted to tell you here and the viewers that now we have reached almost the same level of or numbers of e-way bills which we used to be generated in pre-COVID, which is 20 to 21 lakh, touching 21.5 lakh every day on self generation basis,
Okay.
which is another big change which happened from pre-GST days to the GST days, which
Okay.
I'd forgotten at that time to mention.
Okay, I will move to Mr. Shukla, but before there is one more question for Mr. Kumar. That
Mhm.
is one from Mr. Iyer. He is asking that why should the recipient be denied ITC for the failure of supplier failing to refile return or paid the tax thereof? This is one of the very common problem which
Yes.
assesses are facing.
Actually, you
So
should
what is your
ask
sir?
Mr. Jaykumar and not me. I'm the
Sorry, sorry.
techie
No, no, I will
here.
go back to him. I will go back to him and also to Mr. Shukla that
See,
how this
okay,
can be
so
sorted out.
let me wear my old hat of tax department. See that VAT or GST, the principle is of every uh, part or every journey of from manufacturing to retail, the value addition gets taxed.
Mhm.
Now, unless until that comes here, how do you say that? Then what will happen? The supplier will not give that tax to the government, and buyer will also take credit of that. Now,
Mhm.
the government will be hit by both two sides. That's one of the reasons. That's the main reason here that it has to be done, and that's you need to ensure that you get your supplier uploads. And now from beginning itself we started showing in 2A what the supplier has done, whether he has filed or not. And now that we are now moving from his GSTR1 to 3B, that's also another thing. In fact, in 2A now we are showing not only filed but also whether fellow has filed GSTR 3B or not.
Okay.
That also we are showing now.
Okay. Mr. Shukla, I will come to you, especially there is one interesting question from Mr. Natarajan, and he is saying that why can't we have a system like what we have in income tax, that is Form 26AS, that kind of form system, that kind of structure in indirect taxation in GST, that will give a seamless return filing and ITC. Do you support this view as a assessee, as a taxpayer?
I think his connection is better.
Yeah, we have
I
lost
think Mr.
his.
Prakash can answer that.
Yeah. So 2B is
You're
nothing
right,
but
Vasu.
the exact equivalent of 26As, but at monthly level.
Okay. Mr. Jayakumar, now what Mr. Kumar was talking about
Yes,
this
yes, yes. Even I too want to
recipient
share
be
my thoughts
denied
on that.
ITC. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
please.
yes. See, this provision was there in central excise also, that making jointly and severally the recipient as well as the supplier responsible for any default.
Mhm.
Mr. Prakash is very right in saying that, because government is a stakeholder, their revenue is at stake, that if the supplier takes credit and the supplier doesn't pay and the receiver takes credit, there is a double jeopardy. That is what he's trying to say. But that doesn't make a genuine a recipient who is absolutely genuine, who has paid the money to the supplier, both the value and the tax. Why he would be jointly and severally responsible for a supplier's fault, and that too for a fault which is not known to him, because 3B is still manual.
Mhm.
Even if 3B is connected to 1, I will not be in a position as a recipient to understand whether this invoice has been tax paid or not.
Mhm.
Still, unless 3 comes in place, which was the original conception, this may not be a possibility at all. When there is going to be a deficit in the government side, in the implementer side, why I, a genuine taxpayer, a recipient of received goods and services, paid the money, value, and why I should be still deprived of it is a very interesting litigated question. And unless this provision is taken out and genuine taxpayers are protected, we will be seeing corridors of the court flooded with cases. I'm
Okay.
sure.
So just to answer, to clarify that in 2B, you get to see exactly what has been filed.
Okay.
And then once 1 and 2B both are connected to 3B, if you see that your ITC, your invoice is there, and he has also filed 3B, you are assured that yes, there is no challenge on that front.
So there is already a system of Form 26.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
3B, when 3B is connected, am I
3B
right?
is connected, which will happen from December, November month,
Okay,
filed in
once it is
December.
connected, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that is
Once
what
it is
our aim
connected, it is as good as 3 only.
Correct. I mean,
Great.
not exactly to.
Not exactly,
but then
look-alike.
look-alike. Yes, yes.
Correct.
Mr. Kumar, there is one question from Mr. Saurabh Agrawal, and he is asking that is GST really effective for small businesses? I think he should have asked, is GST really effective for small businesses from you? But I'm just putting his original question for
Okay,
before
so
you.
let me give you some statistics, and after that, you should answer that question.
I'll do
Whom
that.
do we define as small business here? In our 1.27 crore active taxpayer today, we started with 64.5 lakh, 22 lakh file nil return, 22 lakh.
Okay.
And up to 1.5 crore turnover, we have almost 84% of our taxpayers are covered under that.
Okay.
And they pay very, very small amount there.
Okay.
So we were told, oh, they have too much of uh, compliance burden on them. Initially, we didn't know how many invoices they are going to put.
Mhm.
The number of invoices uploaded by them comes below a dozen a month.
Mhm.
Now, the question is, what else do you want? In fact, government, one part, very small taxpayer, they have given you composition.
Mhm.
So around 17.5 lakh people are there.
Mhm.
Remaining have opted to be here. Today, 40 lakh is your threshold.
Yeah.
Around 60% of our taxpayers are below 40 lakhs
Okay.
because they want to be in the chain so that they can get the ITC, pass it on to their buyers. So they are in the chain of supply chain.
Mhm.
But that is where we are. So what expectation do they have?
Mhm.
Completely, I mean, leave them aside so that if you don't want to maintain books of account, don't want to, then you go opt for composition, which 17.5 lakh people have done. But if you want that you need to get the input tax credit,
Mhm.
then you have to you have to upload GSTR1, which is 10 to 15. That also if 1.5 crore and file a 3B. For them, now we have started giving them prepared GSTR1 to 3B and
Mhm.
also 2B to 3B.
Mhm.
And hopefully from December, if they are monthly filers, they will also get their draft ready 3B.
Mhm.
So that is what we are planning. Yes, some people may say that in service tax, they used to file once in 6 months. But then here, the ITC is moving from a small guy to big guy also, or big guy to small guy also. So some compromise has to be made. And that is where we are, that some people have to file. So GSTR1 government has made them uh, quarterly filing, but 3B still continues to be monthly filing for them.
Okay. And Mr. Kumar, if I can ask you that what are the three key things which are going to be seen? I mean, of course, you have discussed about various functionalities,
Which
various new
Kumar? Jay
features.
Kumar or Prakash Kumar?
Mr. Prakash Kumar. Then when I will come to you, I will ask Mr. Jay Kumar. And
Okay.
since Mr. Kumar, so can you give us a sense of what are the key three things which we are going to have on GSTN in near future or next 3 to 6
The
months?
one I have just explained is linking, and already started giving the PDF document so that people can read, understand,
No,
and tell us if there is any problem.
apart
And
from you have said, sir. I
so
mean,
that's number one.
hmm,
Yeah, yeah. So that's number one. Number two, we have in fact recently given a matching tool as well. So that like if you have your 2B and if your purchase register,
hmm,
you just quickly import them into the matching tool and you can know exactly which supplier has not filed,
hmm,
what Mr. Jayakumar was mentioning. And if there is a discrepancy, whether it's a GST number is different or amount is different, item is different in the document, that you can see there. So that's going to come. In fact, that's going to be. And the third one, which is very important again, for what Mr. Jayakumar was saying, that as a recipient, what is my fault? So we are giving a communication tool where you can write all the invoices which are appearing in your purchase register, but not in the 2B of your 2B, which supplier has not uploaded into that, and then it goes to that supplier. Now he has two choices. Either he says it is not mine, or he accepts. The moment he accepts, it become part of his GSTR1.
Okay.
So this will be another thing which was, again, if you remember, Mr. Jaykumar, 1A of original 1, 2, 3. Where in 2 you could add whatever invoices you had, and it used to go as 1A to the supplier. Basically, we are bringing, because we have now disjointed things, so we are trying to bring them and put them together. So this tool will basically help us. Whatever my invoices which my supplier has not uploaded, I can put it into that, and then it will go and flow back to the supplier.
Okay, so now we are entering into the last 5 minutes of our discussion. Mr. Shukla, thanks, you are back with us. Let me ask you the
Thank you.
three things which you expect to be done in GST system to make the life more good. I mean, rather I use the word better or best, more good and simpler than what you have.
So let me say a few things. So it is not that we are complaining that GST is not simple. If you compare earlier regime, GST is simple, but it is not that GST which we dreamed for. So yes, there is a lot of scope to improve on GST for making it good and simple. Few suggestions which we can give is that these frequent changes on law side as well as on tax platform, tax technology platform which GSTN is giving has to be avoided. E-invoicing, we are ready, but I don't know how many companies are ready. So we suggest that this should be taken with proper precaution and involve the big assessees, because what happens that our experience will help to bring more simple way of doing it, or taking considering into consideration all the problems which can come after live. So that is what is one thing. Then we want to expand the ITC net, what Jaykumar has said. I fully second it, or this is what industry is requesting. Whatever is business expenditure, make it eligible. So all the dispute will go on interpretation side. And third, reduce this tax slab, so that again classification issues will go. So with these three things, I think it will help from law side. As far as GST, and I have one suggestion, companies like us who are operating in more than 20, 25 states, we have each state-wise login. Can GSTN think of master login where we use that master login and then we do compliance? Earlier, our request was centralized registration, which is not possible, obviously, because of federal structure. We have state, we have center, everybody wants to have their revenue share, and we cannot have centralized registration. It's okay, but at least centralized login ID can be given so that we can do, because now most of the companies have centralized their compliance, so it will help us. Secondly, fund transfer, because it is our own money lying in different state, because of various business reasons we have cash locked up. So why don't we get this facility of transferring our own funds? Because any which way, if we are going to supply and we are having output liability and we don't have input credit, we can always use that for, instead of blocking additional money from our side and get that. And last but not the least, when Mr. Kumar said they have done integration of import duty credit, our suggestion is, why to have import duty credit? You bring that into my GSTN and make it as a liability from our side, so that our cash is not blocked. And whenever we file return against that GSTN, it should be shown as a liability, and I can adjust my credit and liability in one go, because otherwise I am paying duty to you at the time of clearance, and then I am taking credit and then I utilize. So some of these suggestions, I think, will go a long way to simplify and make it good.
Okay. Mr. Jaykumar, before moving to Mr. Kumar for last word on this issue, what are your suggestions, say one or two key suggestions which you think the things will make better and simpler?
Okay. On the law front, as I said, and even endorsed by Mr. Rajesh, the blocked credits should find no place in the GST. It is regressive. The blocked credits should be taken out.
Okay.
That is my wishful thinking. One. Second, on the litigation to reduce, we should have a sensible approach towards it. GST tribunal has to be formed immediately as per the guidelines of the courts, and it has to be put in place very soon to avoid flooding of the corridors of the High Court and getting differential judgments. Or we should have a special bench, which I told earlier. And this we have got around 550 notifications, 150 circulars, 1 amendment act, 10 ordinances, something like that, in 38 months. This is not going to help, really help. This is not going to, which means every day, a small trader who was asking that question has to read, even to find out that it is not applicable to him.
That's true.
Leave alone trying to read it and applicable to him. And coming to the GSTN part of it, I have 3. Here only I have 3. 1, the payment from the receiver, whether is it possible to make the payment of the tax directly to the e-portal to the government instead of making it to my, this I think why it should not be done. Anyway, it is a tax. I give it to him and I am keeping my fingers crossed whether he has remitted it to the government or not. Instead, develop a e-portal. Whereas value I will pay the supplier, tax I will pay that person. Whatever credit he has, the government can give him back. Whatever ITC he is going to have or claim, that can be credited back to him, so that at least from my end, I am genuine and my genuinity is endorsed. My ITC is safe. So this is on one front. And 3B has to go away. And the last but not the least, the wonderful Mr. Prakash Kumar should lead GSTN for another 10 years so that GST is in place perfectly. I have not seen such a proactive, very resilient head of an institution. That too, this is absolutely a cobweb. He has handled it with elan. That is another my wishful thinking, that people like him head the organization for the betterment of this levy to stay forever. Over to you, Sashi.
Mr. Kumar, last set of words from you.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, just I wanted to answer. Master login, the way we have it for tax consultants, we are working on it to provide to large taxpayers. Today, consultants can do it for all their clients in one go. The same thing we want to do it here as
That
well.
will be great. That will be great.
Yeah, ITC fund transfer from one state to another is not a tech problem. It's a law problem. If it was simple cash, there was no problem. But if it is input tax credit to be moved from one GST to another GST, and there is a law involved, and this was discussed some time back based on representations. What my suggestion will be that you may like to council import duty, just send it to me in writing. Note, Shishirji has our in fact, we have our common email IDs on that email.
Yeah. And sir, this
so
is actually implemented
exactly.
in UAE. This is implemented already in UAE. So I think we have already precedence on this suggestion, what I have given to you.
Yeah, so if you can just give me exactly how it will work. What happens today that when I import, I pay that money and that money comes into as my ITC. And that ITC I utilize. Now, what change is required? You can just suggest to us. So technically, it is a technical challenge, no problem. Then what Mr. Jaikumar said about payment from put up by many, but then it's a pure a policy issue, technology part, that's not much of a problem. And the third one, 3B to go away rather than, in fact, at this stage, we are making it more like original 3 so that it has all the functionalities and features get built into it. And for the last comment, thank you very much. I'm here for next 18 days more.
That's why I said that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So Mr. Prakash Kumar, Mr. S. Jaikumar, and Mr. Rajesh Shukla, thank you very much for this discussion. And I hope that our audience, the people who have joined us, must have got a response to their questions and must have got their queries resolved. So thank you very much to one and everyone for joining us. And that's it. That's the end of this webinar. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you. Varun.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.